China has 3.28 million public electric vehicle charging stations. The United States has 192,000. That gap is not a typo. It is not a projection for 2035. It is where both countries stand right now, today, as of the end of 2024. And in 2024 alone, China built 600,000 new public charging stations. That is more than 3 times the entire US public charging network, constructed in a single calendar year. The country that most of the Western world assumed was playing catch up in clean energy infrastructure quietly built the largest charging network in human history. And almost nobody outside of China's own borders noticed it happen. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the problem it solves. Range anxiety is the single biggest reason people in the UK, the US, Germany, and Australia hesitate when they think about buying an electric vehicle. Not the price. Not the technology. The fear of running out of charge somewhere with no station nearby. The fear of pulling off a motorway, finding a charger, and waiting 45 minutes before you can continue. The fear that the infrastructure your car depends on simply does not exist yet in the places you need it. That fear is rational. In the United States, there is roughly 1 public charging station for every 1,700 EVs on the road. The network is growing, but it is fragmented, inconsistent, and heavily concentrated in urban areas. Drive through rural Texas or the Great Plains, and the gaps between public chargers can exceed 200 miles. The European Union has done better, with around 740,000 public stations across member states. But the distribution is uneven, and the rollout speed has not kept pace with the accelerating adoption of electric vehicles. China decided to solve this differently, not by setting a target and waiting, by treating charging infrastructure the same way it treated motorways, high-speed rail, and mobile network coverage, as a national priority that gets built at national speed. Here is what that looks like in practice. In 2020, China had approximately 800,000 public charging stations. By the end of 2022, that number had reached 1.8 million. By the end of 2023, it crossed 2.7 million. By the end of 2024, it stood at 3.28 million, according to data published by China's National Energy Administration. The growth rate has not slowed, it has accelerated. The State Council, China's cabinet, set an official target in 2020, 3 of 10 million public charging stations by 2030. Based on the current rate of construction, that target is likely to be reached early. But the scale of the network is only part of the story. The speed of the charging matters just as much as the number of stations. CATL, the world's largest electric vehicle battery manufacturer with a 37.9% share of the global market in 2023, developed a battery architecture called Shengsing capable of 480 kilowatts of peak charging power. For context, Tesla's supercharger V3, widely considered the benchmark for fast charging in the West, peaks at 250 kilowatts. Porsche's Taycan, which uses an 800-volt charging system and is one of the fastest charging Western vehicles available, peaks at 270 kilowatts. On compatible 800-volt infrastructure, a vehicle fitted with CATL's Shengsing battery can charge from 10 to 80% in approximately 11 minutes. That figure was independently confirmed by the automotive publication electrive.com in a real-world test of the Zeekr 007, a production vehicle using this battery that has been on sale in China since December 2023. This is not a laboratory result. It is not a manufacturer claim without independent verification. It is a documented, tested, real-world result from a car you can buy today. BYD, China's largest domestic electric vehicle manufacturer, has developed its own flash charging system for select models capable of delivering up to 1,000 kilowatts of charging power. It is important to be precise about what that means. This speed requires BYD's proprietary ultra-high-power infrastructure, which is not yet universally available. But the infrastructure for it is being built, and the direction of travel is clear. The highway network is where the practical impact of China's approach becomes most visible. China's Ministry of Transport confirmed in 2023 that every service area on China's national expressway network now has electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Every single one. If you are driving an electric vehicle on a Chinese motorway and you need to charge, you will find a station at the next service area. That reliability, that certainty, is what removes range anxiety from the equation entirely. It does not require the driver to plan around the charging network. The charging network plans around the driver. To put that in a Western context, the United States has approximately 4,500 highway rest areas and service plazas. The number with reliable public fast charging as of 2024 is a small fraction of that. The Biden administration's National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program allocated $7.5 billion to build a national charging network, with a goal of 500,000 public chargers by 2030, That goal, if met, would still leave the US at roughly 1/6 of China's current network. The European Union's regulation requiring fast chargers every 60 kilometers on major corridors by 2025 represented a significant policy commitment. China passed that threshold years ago and kept building. There is a reasonable question to ask here, which is, does the size of the network match the size of the market? China has far more EVs than any other country, so naturally it would need more chargers. That is true. China sold 11 million new energy vehicles in 2024, compared to approximately 1.2 million in the United States. But the ratio still tells the same story. The US has one public charger for roughly every 6 EVs sold in 2024. China has one public charger for roughly every 3.5 EVs registered. China is not just building more stations because it has more EVs. It is building stations faster than the EV fleet is growing. The reason this matters beyond China's borders is straightforward. Every major Western automaker is now accelerating its shift to electric vehicles. Ford, General Motors, Volkswagen, Stellantis, Toyota, they are all committed to electric futures on timelines measured in years, not decades. The cars will be ready. The infrastructure question in each of those markets is whether the charging network keeps pace. What China has demonstrated is that the infrastructure problem is not technically difficult. It is not constrained by engineering limitations. Building charging stations is not complicated. The constraint has always been decision speed, coordination between government and industry, and willingness to invest at scale before the demand fully materializes rather than after. China made that decision. The result is a network that covers every motorway service area, every major city, and an increasing proportion of the secondary roads that connect them. By 2030, on current trajectories, the gap between China's charging infrastructure and the rest of the world's combined capacity will be larger than it is today. Not because Western countries are doing nothing, they are building. But China began earlier, is building faster, and has already solved the foundational problem that the rest of the world is still arguing about how to approach. Range anxiety is not a feature of the electric vehicle. It is a feature of insufficient infrastructure. China removed it. And the 10 million charging stations they are building toward are not the ceiling. They are the next milestone.